Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
This is a special bonus episode. Here is your host, my Grammy, Meg Glesener.
Thank you, Shiloh. Yes, this is Meg Glesener, your host, and we have a special bonus episode for you, and we have titled it, What is in a Name? This episode was inspired by my desire to give an audio record to our mostly grown kids, hearing mom and dad share the inspiration behind each of their names, which will be at the end of the episode. Also, I have asked my guests in the PS of many of our past stories, which you might remember and be encouraged afresh as you hear the most engaging snippets of the answer to the question, is there anything special about your name? As on every bonus episode, we will start with some biblical thoughts from my husband, Mike, introduced by our granddaughter, Shiloh.
Here is my puppy, Mike Glesener.
What is in a name? Meg, in her last season of podcasts, asks each of her guests at the end of the episode, is there a special name in their life, top of their head, some story with a significant name in it? A name is the beginning of something much deeper, a question that resonates with all of us and is a very top-of-mind question for everybody today. That is, who are you? What is your identity? And a name is a great place to start. It's a word or words that describe a lot about a person. My name's Mike. Now, there's billions of Mikes in the world, so that doesn't really help you too much, but it gives you a good place to start. When you add to that a story, you're getting a little more into who I am. And a story with the experiences and the relationships that I have. That's what Meg's podcast does. The Letters from Home digs into people's stories. So you get to find out who people are and maybe where they were before and who they are now from where they were then. Another way to discover someone's identity is the things that they've left behind them, the works, the artifacts. When you think of Beethoven, you think of a whole opus of music. When you think of Napoleon or Beyonce or Tiger or Genghis, those are all single words that conjure up a whole history and set of activities and accomplishments, and they're all bound up in the story and the works of these individuals, of the billions of people over the millennia of time that have existed. And it's amazing that you can get to all of that through just the simple one word. Another aspect of names is looking at them from where did they come from? All of us get a name at birth. Even Adam and Eve, when they were created by God, He gave them those names. Some people you'll hear in the stories that Meg has hated their name, or in other cases, love their name. And I know people that just didn't feel like that name represented them anymore. It wasn't who they were. They would actually go back and change their name just because it didn't reflect where they were right now. So names come from birth. Names come from experiences in life. There's multiple names. All sorts of characters in the Bible have gone from one name to another, or a series of names. Jacob became Israel. Abram became Abraham. Sarai became Sarah. Saul became Paul. Simon became Peter. In all those cases, part of the name change was also because the person had changed. They had gone beyond. They had come into a new sphere of their life. And when you get to that point where you start discovering more and more of the answer to the question, who are you? Then the name also can go with it. And there's places, as you know, there's special names, right? There's those pet names that you have that only certain people call you. People in public don't know your private names. And then you probably have that really, really special name that only one person other than yourself knows. Well, in this episode, we're going to consider a little bit about the specialness of names And we're also going to share our own kids' names. Meg and I have 8 kids together. Naomi Praise, Hannah Rose, Havilah Joy, Josiah Pilgrim, Eden Hope, Micah Zion, Jordan David, and Elijah Wisdom. Each of those names, in our minds, causes us to think, what were our aspirations when they were born? What was our hope for their life? And what our expectations were as parents that we would contribute to that identity in them, who they were to become. We'll get into that a little bit more when Meg and I consider each of those names. But there is one other aspect of this that I want to close with. In the book of Revelation, there is a verse, Revelation 2:17, and it says, "To the one who overcomes, I will give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to the one who receives it." Isn't that special? God has a name for those who overcome, and no one will know it but God and that person. That really intrigues me. I really would love to know what that name is. So listen up and we'll consider some other special names.
Here's the audio collage from previous episodes that will give you a little teaser for their stories. Here is Ni Akofio Soa from episode 53. What does your name mean to you? And what's a special name in your family that means a lot?
Ni in Ghana tells people what tribe you're from. So they have a lot of Nis, and they name the chiefs Ni whatever. So it's more would be like a title also, which I have an uncle who was a chief, more or less like royal also, and his kids also have the same name, different names. His also was called Nianyete, but then he had a different last name. Nianyete, they would call him Gan Manche, which means Gan, chief, which Gan is our tribe, and Manche means a chief or a king in my local dialect. Yeah.
Here is Camille Joy from episode 54. Is there something special about your name or a story behind it?
Yes. So my mom is amazing, and she really showed me the power of a mom. That we have so much power, and our children, they may grow up and go on different paths, but we always have the power to go to God and to remind him that he's given us these children as gifts, and really just decree and declare over their lives. So be encouraged, because she definitely showed me how much power as a mom we have. And she named me Camille Joy. So when she had her first child, my sister Tanisha, they almost lost their lives. They lost a lot of blood. She had to get a lot of stitches, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around my sister's head. And so when she got pregnant again, she was terrified to have another baby. But I came out with one push, and she says the sun came shining through the window. And so she named me Camille Joy, because I brought her so much joy in that moment. But little did she know that simple name carried me through even the darkest times for myself. So the joy remained with me always. And that is what we named my show after. So Moments of Joy. So, moments of me, but I'm also giving you those moments that my mom taught me, right? Finding the joy even in a bad situation. So
here is Cynthia Tobias from episode 56. Is there a name that is special to you?
Well, I think it would be the name of my dad, Robert Ulrich. And the reason that all of my books have Cynthia Ulrich Tobias is he never had a son. He was so proud of me. At 91, he was promoting my middle school book, right? Saying, everybody needs this book. He was such a champion and prayer warrior, and I wanted to honor him by always having his name with mine in every single book. His 90th birthday, I asked him, and I've got this on video. I said, Dad, you have anything left on your bucket list? He goes, oh, yes. He said, I want to win one more soul. Now, that's my dad. Every time you talk to him. And he would, everywhere he went, into the Department of Licensing. How are you this morning, Mr. Ulrich? I'm great. You know why? Because Jesus is my Savior. Do you know Jesus? And I would be with him going, Dad. He'd sit down in the VA waiting room and he'd turn to the guy next to him and say, you know how important it is to go to heaven, don't you? I go, Dad. And the guy said, well, yeah, I think so. He was unashamed. And he said toward the end of his life, he said, I just don't feel like I've won that one more soul. I said, Dad, are you kidding me? Everywhere you go, you plant the seeds. You talk about Jesus. You're an ambassador for God everywhere. You have no way of knowing how many souls have been won. He said, boy, I sure hope so.
Amen. Here is Rhonda and Connell Hollins from episode 58. Is there something special about your name or a name of anyone close to you?
I mean, more or less, I would say the boys, if anything. Fiery one is Aiden, and Ethan is
firm and strong and faithful.
Firm, strong, faithful. And then what is Avery?
It means king power.
Okay. But so Avery hasn't come into his own yet, but even just the first two, it's crazy how a name is so significant because their names like literally are who they are. Like Aiden is our party all the time, fiery one who can make a friend anywhere. Let's be clear. He doesn't need friends because he can do all, he's big and bad by himself.
You're afraid he's going to walk off with strangers every day, but yeah.
Right. He's never made he's never made a stranger that he doesn't know. And he tells me all the time, I'll talk to the cashier at the store and he'll be like, you're over here talking to strangers. I got to keep you safe. But nevertheless, like he is the fiery one. He keeps us going. And our oldest, Ethan, is so analytical and strong-minded and he has an opinion about everything. And he's very good. Like he's a kid, Meg. But I promise you, he can jump in an adult conversation and talk with the best of them. And we gotta check him on that. We tell him to stay out of adult conversations because we let him in sometimes, and he wants to be in all the time. But it's so important. Like a name means so much, and there's like it carries so much weight within them. And even the boys together, like so for Christmas, we have each our initials on the stocking. So before we had our youngest son. Our name spelled care. So now it still spells care, but it's care. So it's 2 A's.
Lastly, Lois Gatos, episode 59. Is there any name that's special to you?
Let's see. I never really liked my name of Lois, but my mother always encouraged me. Well, she was Timothy's grandmother in the New Testament, you know. And so she always encouraged me to think of that Bible name of Lois, you know, as Timothy's grandmother. So when I was expecting our 5th child, I just knew it was going to be a boy. I mean, and this is in the days of no ultrasounds, nothing. You didn't know what you were going to have. And my mother was such a godly woman. They were still living in Wisconsin, and my dad was still pastoring churches. And she said, I think you're going to have a boy too. She said, why don't you name him Timothy? Because Lois was his grandmother, but you would be his mother, but that didn't make any difference. So sure enough, we had a boy and we named him Timothy. So that name of Timothy has always been special to me. And so our son, Tim, was named after my mother's kind of suggestion, right? And then our older son, Mark, we named him after Mark, also from the Bible, from the New Testament. And Mark was an encourager, and he is. He has actually, he's a wonderful Christian man. So both of our sons their names are very special to me.
I trust you enjoyed the reflections as much as I did. And now you get to hear from Mike and me, sharing our inspiration behind the names of each of our 8 children. Enjoy, kids. Love you. So Mike, or Babe, so Babe, you remember back in the day, long ago, we were talking about what should we name our kids, and we decided we wanted to have biblical names. And what did we decide about middle names?
That they should be very expressive. They should be able to say something about the kid, not just a regular name.
Yeah, that it would be more of a character, like some kind of a character quality or a different kind of a word.
Yeah.
So we'll start with our oldest, born on 5/2/90, Naomi Praise. And Praise, Praise, not Prays.
To me, Naomi was always a very special name and a very special character in the Bible because she's the strong one who goes through a whole bunch of adversity, and in the end, she gets a reward that she never expected, and it means my pleasant one.
Yes, my pleasant one. And Naomi now has kids of her own. Naomi and Nathaniel Oliver have children of their own, and in Psalm 20, verse 5, it says, "He will sing for joy over your victory, and in the name of God, we will set up our banners." And they have this tradition where they put banners over each kid's bed that has their name on it.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Gabar Kanawa, who just turned 6, Hadassah Kala, who just turned 4, and Zakai Yare, who is almost 2.
You want some special names? Those are some special names.
Yes, we won't tell you how to spell them all.
That's right.
8/16/91, Hannah Rose.
Hannah is the woman that Eli saw praying, and what she wanted was a child. For us, after we had our firstborn, we really were very excited about our second child, and it means favor or grace.
Yes, and rose. Roses are valued for their rich and varied colors, profusion of bloom, velvety petal texture, and a rich, sweet scent.
That sounds like our Hannah.
2/6/93, Havilah Joy.
There's a really interesting idea there. Havilah is a land that is one of the rivers coming out of Eden, flows through the land of Havilah, and land is full of gold, and the gold that is there is very fine, much fine gold is what it says in one translation. The gold of that land is good. And Havilah is also a name from the very popular musical Fiddler on the Roof.
Yes, where Mike got to play Tevye, so it's kind of special to Havilah.
She's our little treasure.
We've always thought of Javi as our little treasure chest, which she has been that. And now Havilah and her husband, Robert, the Silvas, have little treasures of their own. Shiloh Aurora, age 6, and Gideon Benjamin, age 1. And I still have a little postcard on my desk. Havilah sent me that she chose the name Shiloh because Shiloh means blessing of God. And Gideon was a mighty man in the scriptures.
Yep.
And also one of my favorite things is people would say, "Oh, Havilah, what does that mean?" It means round. So, yeah.
There is that.
October 11th, 05. Josiah Pilgrim. One passage that I always thought about for the girls was Psalm 45. I would spend a lot of time just reflecting on Psalm 45 and praying. And when I was pregnant with Josiah, you remember, babe, everyone had said, "Oh, you're going to have another girl." We already had 3 daughters. You're going to have another girl. But I had this sense in my heart, no, we're going to have a son. I just had this sense that God was going to give us a son. And I was reading Psalm 45. It was talking about the daughters in verse 13 through 15, how precious the daughters were. And then in verse 16, I was reading and it said, "In place of your fathers will be your sons. You shall make them princes in all the earth." And I knew at that moment that I wasn't just going to have a son, but we were going to have sons. I had that assurance in my heart that God was giving us sons.
We did have sons.
And we had his name picked out the whole time.
That's true. All 3 of the first kids were also named Josiah, but they were girls. So the name Josiah in the Bible is so special because he's a young boy who becomes a very godly king. There's not that many godly kings in the Old Testament. He's one of them. And we did have that name picked out because he was a very bold young man in the scriptures, and that's what we wanted for our son. And his middle name, Pilgrim, as well. Each of our kids' middle names were meant to speak to the character, and that idea of being pilgrims and strangers on the earth all throughout the scriptures is what God's people are.
And so core, to our family and our family mission. And
yeah,
it says in Hebrews 11:13, these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them and embraced them and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. Over there on our wall in our mission statement, right, babe?
It's right over there. I can see it.
4:22:08, Eden Hope.
Eden doesn't need a lot of explanation. It's that garden. It's the beginning. It's where God walked in the cool of the day with Adam and Eve. And hope is a statement that says that's what we really want for our family and for our little girl, that we experience that fellowship with God, that sweet fellowship.
And Eden, I actually was just talking with her today, how one of her strong points has always been that she has great hope. She has great faith in people. She believes great things. I love that about her.
Yeah, and the name Eden means delight.
Our new millennium baby who just made it right in at the odds, 11/18/2000, Micah Zion. I have to say, when we picked that name out, we went into labor on a Friday, and it was right in the middle of traffic, and I was hitting really big contractions, and I was discouraged, and I was thinking, are we ever going to make it to the hospital? Am I going to give birth in the car? And I opened the word and turned right to Psalm 128. Can you tell I love the Psalm? Psalm 128, verse 5. And I read, the Lord will bless you from Zion, and may you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Indeed, may you see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel. And I just remember we just had that assurance. I'm going to make it through the day. It's going to be all right. We're going to get to see Micah Zion be a blessing.
I remember driving on the shoulder probably a little faster than I was supposed to flying down that freeway, I-5, because we had to get over to Bellevue or Redmond, where the hospital was, or our insurance paid for. We had to go way over there, and that was a harrowing journey. But what you just said, Meg, really sparks in me that idea that each of those names, there's an experience that we had, and whether we had money for a baby or not, or all the trials of the day, and then there's that whole heavenly aspect that there's a whole nother reality going on at the very same time. And Micah, to me, is a very special book in the Bible as well. It's that verse that says, he has told you, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with your God.
Amen.
Yep. And Micah means who is like God.
In Zion, the city of God. 4:25:03, Jordan David.
Jordan is one of the first names that actually was a little more 21st century. David as well. And the idea of the river and the king. The river Jordan is that entrance point into the promised land. It's where Moses wasn't allowed to cross over, but the children of Israel did. And as soon as they put their feet in the Jordan, it stopped up and they could go across. And David, being the most man after God's own heart, David means beloved. Jordan means the flowing.
And I remember, because I thought, well, it's not in keeping, like you said, it's not in keeping with, like characteristics as a middle name. You just said Meg, but David in the scriptures, a man after God's own heart.
Yep. And he's the young man who slew Goliath the giant.
And what's funny is today Jordan is a huge lineman for playing college football.
Don't know if he's David or the giant. Yeah.
We love you, George. And he does. He has that very sweet spirit.
Yeah, he's an overcoming spirit too.
Yes, he does. And I really like the picture of crossing over the Jordan, just that place of victory. And all the kids, when they were little, loved to say, and the Jordan River, like Jordan, because that's a special name.
Special name.
10:24:05. Our last child, Elijah Wisdom.
Yep, Elijah. Whenever you think of Elijah, you think of a very bold, unashamed standout prophet. And they said of John the Baptist, he had the spirit and the power of Elijah. And that's how we wanted to see our eighth child. I don't know if we knew it was going to be our last child at that point, but we definitely wanted to see that type of impact in the world. And, Elijah means my God is Jehovah, fearless, persistent, passionate, unwavering, and then wisdom. So not just crazy, but crazy with wisdom. And that's what he is. He's known as very passionate, and he's known as being very unwavering. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I wrote unwavering depth of character. I was thinking about wisdom and what wisdom is. And it's not about learning and all those kind of things, but it's what's done with all that. And I just thought of that unwavering depth of character. And here is a clip from our son-in-law, Nathaniel, married to our oldest daughter. You get to hear Naomi in there a little bit too.
Ponwa is the verb to surrender, and Gabar is to be strong, to prevail, to overcome. So we knew that that's going to be how we raise our child, is that, we were resolved, like we want to raise our children right, but really we deep down we knew there's a purifying fire ahead of us in order to be the type of parents we need to be to raise our children the right way, because I knew I had such a deficit coming in from this crazy world, and like I really needed to be saved, like really deeply saved. But I just knew that if I could really surrender to God and cry out to Yahshua, then Father, He'll give me what I need. That our son could grow up with that revelation, and by surrendering to God, he'll find peace. In 2018, 2 years and 1 month later, she was born. Someone brought out a letter about the myrtle tree and the different prophecies in the Bible about the myrtle tree in the Old Testament. And they said, and they're just reading it, it just came out of nowhere, a letter that was written in one of our communities. And then they said, hey, if you have a daughter, you should name her Hadassah. Okay. But then as we read the letter and we looked up the verses, and we really liked it, because I think we were really wanting to, like if we had a daughter, and we wanted a daughter, we want someone who could be outward and not be into themselves and have hope and like just have perseverance of character that can. So we found that the myrtle tree was like that. It's a very generous, good, fragrant tree.
The thing is that it's in a dark place. It blooms at night, right? Or it smells good at night, or something about it is like in a difficult or dark place, it blooms brighter.
Kala is the bride. It's the bride of Messiah. It's just it's a special girl name. Also, it means daughter. It means girl. It also means like to be made complete, like to fulfill.
And the picture on her banner is of a horse.
Yep.
But yeah.
So Zakai. So then 2 years later, we have 2 little children, and we have a third one on the way in 2020. Oh boy, our hands are full. Well, do we really fear God as much as we should? No, I don't fear God as much as I should. I really need to find a deeper fear of God, and so I came across that name and I really liked it, Yahweh. That's what it means, the fear of God. But the fear of Yahweh is clean, enduring forever, Psalm 19. So I really need to grow up, and I need to really fear God with all my heart and become someone who has that character that doesn't just want to seek for comfort and complacency. So that's what Zakai means, like to be pure, clean.
My prayer is that by the end of this episode, we'll be inspired to enjoy the beauty and the forethought of names, either the ones that we've been given or what others have been given or how they identify who they are. And like Mike, I hope each one of us has that excitement to hear, what is that name that the Lord might give me? How cool is that? Proverbs 22:1 says, "A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches." What is in a name? The Letters from Home team is definitely a family affair, and I just want to take a minute to tell you what each person's contribution is and has been. Our daughter Hannah contributed the original artwork for the podcast cover and logo. Our son Josiah, when we started out, he really helped me define my why, and he is the voice of the intro and one of the outros. Jordan is our technical director. He has consulted me from the very beginning. He helped me submit my podcast. He helped me set up my account. He's helped me with so many different things along the journey. And we were on another podcast together. Our son Micah, he and Josiah and Jordan, all three of them, have created the music for the intros and the outros, as well as the transitions. Our daughter Eden, she reads the verse at the end, 2 Corinthians 3:3, as well as helped me co-host episode 7. Elijah, he's helped with some various bonus episodes. He is also the voice of the intro on the first episode. And my husband, Mike, he does reflections on the bonus episodes and has been the biggest support to me all along the way. Our other two kids, Havilah and Naomi, and their families, and all of our grandkids, all of our family, they are the wind in our sails. And last but not least, my brother, Joe Dearman, is the voice at the end. He's got the best voice I know, sharing, "Until next time, go in peace." This is the Letters from Home team, and thanks for popping in.
I hope you like this podcast.
Links from our guests will be in the show notes. For more everyday extraordinary faith stories, go to our website, lettersfromhomepodcast.com, and click subscribe or follow on whatever platform you're listening to.
2 Corinthians 3:3. And you show that you are a letter from Christ, delivered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts.
Until next time, go in peace.